Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's device management interface call. Thanks for joining. As usual, the call is public and recorded, so it will be shared live on YouTube. Please be mindful of the comments you make and the information you share with the group. First up, there are a few patches that I want to make sure that everybody is aware of that just got merged. The one is related to the reasons change that was discussed in the past. Um, and Amit, do you mind giving us a little bit of an overview of what you changed in here?
Yeah, sure, Andrew. Thanks. Yeah, so as we had discussed in the past, the problem that we had at hand was that we were using one enum called reason, which was defined in the commons.proto, and each of the RPCs could return a value from the value belonging to this enum. Now, as you could see, this enum is a superset of all the reasons that are possible. So it becomes a little open-ended as to which RPC can return what reasons for an error. So there were two thoughts that we had. One was that we document each RPC with the possible set of reasons that it could return. And the other was that for each RPC response, we define an enum specific to that RPC response so that it's very clear as to what are the possible reasons that could be returned. So in this patch set, we have taken the second approach and we have defined and we have got rid of that common reason out there in the common proto, which was being shared by everything, and defined reasons which are specific to each RPC response. So I tried to make sure that all the values out here are getting used, and I reviewed the RPCs again and added more reasons where things were missing. As we do the implementations, if we see that there are some specific reasons which would be better defined in the interface, then please we should go ahead and add them into the reasons for the specific RPC. So basically what I'm saying is that let's not try to mark internal error as far as possible. So the more we can make the external systems aware of the specific problem that is being encountered by the device manager, if at all the external system can influence it, then that would be better. So yeah, that's the idea, and that's the genset that is there.
Thanks, Amit. And thanks also for documenting it properly. That's incredibly helpful. Any questions to Amit? Anything you wanted to discuss on this patch? It's merged, but as Amit said, it's an work in progress state. So I think it's going to be an iterative set of changes for some time. Okay. We also merged the device startup configuration patch. Amit, just can you give us a couple of words on this one too?
Yeah, sure. So we already had RPC to push the startup config onto a box to the device manager, but we lacked an interface to retrieve what startup config the box is running. So I think this was already discussed in the Brigade calls, but somehow the implementation got missed out. So I added this. So the RPC is simple. While we configure it, we pass a URL from where the box is supposed to get the startup config, right? So the device manager is supposed to grab the startup config from that location and then pass it on to the box. on the retrieval API, so we have, as usual, the status and reason, which could be used to signal any errors. But from a value perspective, you have the config URL and the version. So the config URL is it's not a mandatory attribute, it's an optional attribute, and the DM could choose to not fill it in. But the version is an mandatory attribute, and this is what would enable the northbound systems to figure out exactly what is running. So the config URL being made optional is also because of a reason that initially when the box is plugged in, say for the first time, right? So the box would already have some startup config, which would have been programmed into it from the factory, but it did not get any URL to do that, right? So in that specific case, the config URL anyways has to be empty. So that's why we say that it's not a mandatory attribute.
Maybe one thing on that, would it be worth to, given that the version is mandatory and the config URL is not, swap them around, having the config URL as the last attribute and actually mark it as optional in Proto, given that Proto has that option to have optional in there? Sorry, I didn't comment this on the patch, but it just occurred to me.
Yeah, I can move it around. That's not a problem, but I'm not sure about this optional. Isn't this how to mark it optional? I thought if you just have it, you don't feel it, it's optional, right?
There is an optional flag in protobuf, if I'm not mistaken, that you can.
Okay, like, I can look up on that.
Okay, yeah, that would be, at least in my opinion, a little bit more explicit on what it's mandatory and what it's not. So.
Amit, I have a question in here regarding the URL. Is this URL for different protocols like SFTP, HTTPS?
It could be anything. So you could pass anything in that. It's just a string. And, so it's something that the northbound systems and the device manager implementation has to understand.
Okay.
From an interface perspective, it's transparent.
Okay. Thanks, Amit. In case of SFTP, the username and password, how do we expect the device to be aware?
Yeah, so that needs to be encoded in the URL itself.
Okay.
Yeah. The idea is that really this is somewhere that the information is there, and the device has, if the URL is there, it means that it downloaded something from that place. And what that download means, it means that the device has in itself all the information that are needed to download that, so it can tell which URL and at which password and username the image was downloaded, because it already knows. This is something that's useful after the startup configuration has been retrieved, not before, if I understand this correctly.
So yeah, so just to add on to that, I don't know, Chandra, if I answered your question correctly, but the concept is the same as the image download. And you could look up on the image download protobuf, the proto file. There we even have an example of how the URL could be, how we could encode the username and password in the URL itself.
Sure, Amit. Thank you. And the second question I had, Amit, is regarding this startup config. Like whenever this procedure call is made from the name component, if the device is not reachable at that time, what is the expected device manager handling or behavior?
It's a good question, and I think this question is applicable for not only the startup config, but for any other RPC as well, right?
Yes, it's the general question.
Yeah, so at least with the current reason values that we have, I think it would come to an internal error, or when you say the device is not reachable, there could be two things, right? That actually that device exists, but it is not reachable at that point of time. Or the other option is that that device does not even exist. Right? So maybe it's a wrong UUID. So in the second case, if the device does not exist, then you should pack unknown device. Or else, I think internal error is what we should give back.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
So anybody has any other thoughts on the return code in this case?
Is it worth thinking? Is it worth thinking about unreachable device error?
Like couple of solutions, I have seen that like there is also device unreachable error code.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we can consider that option if everyone agrees.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, my microphone was not working. I also wanted to say that we are missing an error code device unreachable in that case.
I would agree that we can add it, but we can add it only to the case where the device was known before and now it's not reachable. Because
But this is automatically because you have to use the UUID, and you only will get the UUID as a return code to the start managing device, and only if you really could connect to the device. So
yes, but if you have a wrong UUID, you should still know, you should still get unknown device.
Yeah. No, yeah. This is what we're doing right now. We're giving you an unknown device, is the UUID is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're getting now you an internal error back if the device is not reachable. And I think it would be better to get a statement saying that the device is unreachable.
Yeah. Amit, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm still thinking about it. Yeah, it sounds okay to me, but I'm just thinking that what could the name components do if the device is unreachable? As in, is there a special handling that they could do or they should do?
You can repeat it.
Because generally in case of unreachability, there would be some retries, right? There could be some retries. So where should the retries be, in the DM or in the name components?
I think in the NEM components.
Yeah, I think we leave it out of our responsibility. You made us a call for something that we couldn't reach. It's up to you what to do, because we may not know that it was supposed to be reachable. Maybe they made some mistake in the NEM and they called it before, or they unprovisioned it and they're asking something. We are not holding the state of the entire system, so I think that we just return device unreachable, and if they want to retry after 5 seconds, they implement a retry mechanism. It's not up to us.
I get your point of view, Andrea, but maybe my thought process is the complete opposite of it, because I would think that the device manager understands a specific device much more closely than the device, than the name components, right? So depending on what kind of a communication is there between a device manager and the device, and the implementation of either party, right? The reachability could be different, right? So when you have a gRPC connection versus, I don't know, a netconf connection, right? It's different, right? Or somebody could have, I don't know, a UDP protocol based connection, I don't know. So I would think that when the device manager, right, says that yes, it is not reachable, the device is not reachable, it would have already tried whatever it can to reach the device. So
Yes.
I don't have a problem in having a code where it says that, okay, the device is not reachable. But what I'm trying to say is that the DM implementations should basically try to do whatever is possible, right? So it could be a small intermittent network glitch, right? Because of which it was not reachable. So that is what I was thinking.
So yes, the one thing that I'm debating is that we should still have that state, because at some point we might say it's unreachable. We might have tried all our best and we say it's unreachable.
Yes, agreed.
And also I went and looked at the start managing device. We should probably have an unreachable also here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually, yeah, we can have that. I am not denying that. So if we think of that, right, then I would think that we should also have a timeout.
In
what do you think?
In every call?
Yeah, right. As in a timeout could be an error reason, right?
Well, but that can be passed within the gRPC context. We don't have to specify it within ourselves. It doesn't have to be an explicit parameter. You pass in a context with a timeout within the call.
No? Okay. No, but I still need to be a little bit more convinced about this thing. So say for example, right, say a device manager implementation is talking to HCD, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the device manager is, for example, not able to reach HCD, then it is not going to tell NEM, right, that I'm not able to reach HCD. It will just say it's an internal error.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is that the device manager, if it is not able to work with its or reach its dependent services or devices or interfaces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Should it just say that it's an internal error and I can't do the job? Is there a value in making that specific thing to its available to its upstream service, right? And can the upstream or should the upstream service even know about it? That's what I'm trying to question.
I'm missing the point. I agree that if it's something that is within the realm of software, we should give an internal error. But I don't see why we should give an internal error if the device is unreachable. They're two different things. I mean, if it's a TCD, I agree, it's an internal error. But if it's a device, well, it might be more interesting to them to get the device unreachable because it might, I don't know, try through something else. Maybe it actually is a discovery that the device is unreachable, and it checks that Volta and it's also unreachable there, and then it sees that it cannot ping it, or I don't know, some other check. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yes.
Any other thoughts on this one?
Okay, I will.
And other common failure, what I've seen is, let's say, we use the security from the device manager to the device. There could be that the certificates are maybe expired, or there are no certificates placed on the device. in which case device manager may detect that there is some security issues, not able to contact the device or not able to establish a session with the device, although the layer 3 reachability is there.
So I'm not sure. I would think that this is an internal error of the device manager and the device, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. I think this doesn't really concern an NEM. It concerns NEM in the moment NEM is directly calling the device itself, because there is a certificate. But if the call between NEM and the device manager is okay, and the device manager to the device is wrong, then it's the pertainance of the device manager to fix that. Maybe ask the certificate again, or like something else.
Yeah, so as of today, the DMI interface does not address any of the security related things, right? So what kind of security is going on between the device and the DM, or the certificates or whatever, right? The credentials are not really passed through the device manager, the DMI interface, right? So passing back to the name component through the interface, this kind of specific failures, I don't know if the name can make any sense out of it. I would think that an internal error, yes, or notifying that, yes, the thing has failed. And then, but see, in any case, the operator needs to be able to troubleshoot, right, why the operation is failing. So I would think that it should be through the logs. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree on this.
Agreed. Agreed. And do we have error code separate from the error message? Like error code will give the high level category of the failure, and error message will give more specific information.
No, we don't have error code and error reason. We just have a error code, which is the enum that we have, the values of the enum.
Agree, Amit. One option is, we have to look into the logs and see what caused that issue and fix it.
So are you suggesting that we should have an error message as well? Is that what you are suggesting?
Like we have two different options. Like either you have the error codes itself cover the details as much possible, or have an error message wherever you want to communicate some more further information, which can aid the operator user to understand the problems better and act fast.
Yeah, so at least to the extent that I have seen things, right, I have not found any use of the error messages except for displaying or for logging, right? So that's why we gave it a pass, saying that we would try to cover all the possible errors that could be encountered and make them as granular as possible through the enum. And that's why I said, okay, if there is something that is missing, let's add it to the, let's add it to the enum, right? Rather than using or trying to put it in one of the existing or wrong enum type. So the one simple reason is that, see, when we are returning strings, right, for the error message, we can't use it for anything except for, we can't compare it, right? It can be used only for display and logging. So logging can be done by the DM itself. You don't have to pass it to upstream service to just for logging.
Agree, Amit. Making the enums more granular will surely help, because in all other places also we can reuse as much. And the error message may lead to putting strings that are may not be like possible for the machines to operate. Like error codes are always.
Yeah, and again, it becomes more difficult to standardize across different DM implementations, right?
Yes.
Somebody might write, okay, something, somebody else might write, okay, with hyphens, somebody might write with underscores. I don't know.
Yeah, I
But
agree here. The usage of strings is something that I'm strongly against, because I've seen how easy it is to get into a mess where you have to parse like 100 different types of strings because everybody does it a tiny bit different.
But I mean, the idea is not to parse the string. This is just an information which the system north of it could put in its error log saying, okay, the software update activate image returned with an internal error, and then there's an additional error string which says, I don't know, some device manager dependent error string. And this would be easier if you then talk to the people who are providing you with a device manager, and you could tell them, look, there was this error string. I mean, I guess this is the idea, but I proposed this already last time and I didn't succeed in doing it.
If you need it to be logged, you can easily go and check the logs of the device manager.
Yeah, but then there are, I don't know, it's handling thousands of devices, so it's hard to find probably, and it might be easier to, if you could just see it, and perhaps you can even correlate it then to the log file, because the same message might be printed in the log file as well. But I mean, we had this discussion already, and it looked like most of the people were not in favor of it. So
I would try to augment, as I said already, I would try to augment the reasons enumeration as much as possible.
Yeah, I think I will also stick with that, right? So to the extent possible, let's not use this, and especially only for logging. So let's rely on each service to log its data in such a way that we could troubleshoot and debug, right?
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay.
sorry, I think that I'm not totally sure if we this timeout thing might be really complicated. I mean, it's if we're doing a software update and this takes about, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, and you set a timeout for 1 minute, then yeah. I mean, is this really needed, this timeout?
Hold on. That is also the reason why I don't want it in our RPC. So as you know, gRPC already has a context where that context, you can give it a timeout. That timeout can be used to actually make sure that the call gets a return within that timeout. Our calls also, I don't want to put the timeout in our explicit as an argument, specifically for the reason you said, because the call might get a timeout, and that's okay if we pass it in gRPC, but the operation might take a lot longer. And I wouldn't pass the timeout within the operation itself. The operation timeout needs to be handled at NEM if it doesn't receive a notification that the image update went successfully. Am I making sense? Yes? No? Maybe?
Sorry, I was muted. I wanted to say yes.
Yeah, I agree to this. And so, Holger, I think the idea would be that I think the problem that you came up with, right, that what to do if NEM is saying that timeout is 1 and actually it takes 5, right? So I think that is something that NEM has to ensure, that you have to give it enough time to complete it.
Mm.
And I don't see any other way, right? Or the only other option is, okay, NEM could say, okay, I don't pass you a timeout at all. Take as long as you want.
Yeah.
But anyways, the interface doesn't change, or it's not. It's basic gRPC, right? So it's nothing to do with the DMI specific.
Yes.
Interface.
Agreed.
Yeah, but it changes the way how it's implemented. So, for example, if you say for start managing device, it will be just run for 5 minutes and then it will stop. Then we internally have to do the same. So we have to stop the operation, which we are currently not doing. Currently, we're just not returning a response in that case. So it could be that the device is managed, but you are expecting that it's not managed. Or is it?
Okay. So see, in any case, a context would be passed, right? Because to the gRPC server, right? And now it is up to the server implementation whether it honors that. If the context is whatever, I forgot the names, is deadline or has a deadline or not, right? It is up to the server implementation whether it respects that or not. If the client has set a context with deadline, right, it is going to go away after that time. So the server could choose to continue. And then if somebody retries, then it can take care of that.
Yeah, I agree.
But ideally, I would think that you should always look at the context, and then if the context is terminating, then or getting done, then you should stop.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my current implementation, and I'm thinking that if you would do that, and then you would do a start managing device again, you might get a message, an error response saying device already managed. If this is okay for you, okay.
Yeah. See, the idea is, right, that you need to start managing the device, right? So if once we start handling all the various resiliency scenarios, right? So this could even happen, right? Because maybe something crashed. Say the case that actually there was no timeout, but as soon as the NEM sent the start managing device, it crashed. And it came back up again, and it sent the start managing device again. But in that case, you say that, oh, I'm already managing this device, so it just goes ahead.
I mean, yeah, it's also.
I'm not sure if that's making sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's also, and I have to say.
Sorry, Andrea, I think you're too far away from the microphone. We can't make out what you're saying.
Really? Okay. Sorry, I was just saying that it's up. This is really an implementation detail, and I believe it's not something we can deal with in the interface.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on this topic? No. Then I have an update on a few things. So I'm working on putting in the Volta docs the documentation for the DMI. So if this is a local copy, but the idea is going to be something around these lines. That we have a new device management interface tab in the Volta docs with the overview, the image management, managing a device, and also the implementation of BBSIM. This is just something to highlight everything within the docs and just keep it united. There's a patch on Gerrit. If you want, just go take a look. But it's a fairly minor update, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows that it's there.
Sandra, only one comment on this point is because I had heard concerns earlier in the Brigade calls about tying the DMI with Volta project, right? Because it's supposed or it's looked at something separate from Volta project. So is it fine if you put in the DMI documentation along with the Volta documentation?
I mean, it's being used as part of a full Volta-based solution, and we mention ONOS in here. Maybe maybe we could do a little less and don't have everything, and maybe have a page that just points to the overview and says, this is what we suggest for the device management implementation. Would that ease your thoughts?
No, I don't have that concern, but I'm just asking maybe.
I think it's fine.
Okay.
I'm just going to ask internally to ONF, but I think it's fine.
Because it might come under the SIBA umbrella, right? Rather than
Yeah, I know.
Volta umbrella.
Yes, I agreed. And we might move it eventually. Right now, it's used with both. So I would say we just have it here. But I'll ask around internally. And there's also things that are not really. Yeah. Let me ask around and see what everybody suggests. Okay. The other topic that I wanted to give an update on is some progress that I've been doing on the Adtran OLT. So as you know, Adtran supports the device manager interface with the device manager. And we have an OLT in Berlin, another OLT, and we were able to deploy the device manager from Adtran and also use it to upgrade the image of the device itself. That was really good. So right now, my plan is after I finish the Volta tests, the Volta side of tests, meaning the data plane tests that are fundamental for the integration and the certification, I will create a job for Adtran device manager that uses the initial few tests that we have to make sure that even against an OLT, a physical actual OLT with their adapter, we are successful in doing start managing device, stop managing device, collect some metrics and things like that. Okay, any questions on this? No? Okay. That was my last topic for the day, but I'd like to open it up Does anybody have any questions, any thoughts that they would like to share?
Andrea, I have one thing. This is regarding a new Jira that I created. You can look up on that, Vol 3788. So this is something that please try opening that up. Maybe that would help.
Is this right, Amit?
Yeah, can you please open the Jira Vol 3788?
Oh, yes, sorry. I did open it, but I wasn't sharing my screen on that window.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Yeah, so I created this Jira. So this is related to some topics that we discussed earlier in the Brigade. And so this was related to some specific attributes that the different types of components could have or would have, and how do we expose them through the interface. So right now the interface is very generic, right? So everything is a component, and there isn't a scope of defining or exposing specific attributes of a component, right? So a fan could have a specific attribute, and these SFPs generally have specific attributes, right? The transceivers basically. So so the decision that was there, right, excuse me, in the Brigade meeting was that, so I have put a link to that, was to use, excuse me, well-defined proto messages for those instead of using a key value pair of strings, because again, that makes things very open-ended. So that was the agreement, and based on that, plan to introduce the specific attributes. So in the description, I have covered that for a port, component type port. What are the attributes that you're proposing for container what and for transceiver what? So I will submit a path set for this in some time. So if anybody has any thoughts on this specific Jira, they can ping me offline as well. So I'm not saying, I don't know if we can go through it right now and have any comments, but yeah, offline is also all right. Or you can ping me on the channel, the device management interface channel. So these are needed in the name components when you want to build up the inventory of OLT, right? Or actually, if you look at this, right, they are very, again, very hardware. As in, they're not specific to an OLT, right? Because a transceiver is there even on the servers as well, right? Ports are there on the servers as well. So again, they are still generic to that extent, but specific on a per component basis. And generally, when you have an inventory, right, you would want to know what kind of a transceiver is there, right? What is the voltage on the PSU? Okay, what type of the, what kind of voltage does this PSU support, right? What are the speeds on the ports? So things like that. So yeah, so if anybody has any comments, please do share with me. That's all I wanted to bring up.
Maybe more than it's more a generic comment. I know that the GNMI interface in with more than GNMI, actually OpenConfig has most of these things. And I'm just throwing it out. Is there a possibility that we can reuse some of that stuff?
If you can share the protos, maybe I can just have a look at it, and maybe we can directly include those protos if it's already there.
So they're in here. Sorry, no. They're here. They're here. So possibly take a look, Amit. I'm not sure how we could do this really, but yeah, if we can, it's good.
Okay, yeah, I'll have a look at it.
Because OpenConfig, it's a well-known standard. There's a lot of people using it. So I think it's worth checking out. And if we say we cannot use it, okay, fine, sure. But if we can, it's great. Okay, and also what I propose, Amit, is that you do some investigation and maybe come up with a set of changes to the protos to be presented to the brigade before we take it further. Because I think that's gonna be, that needs discussion, let's put it this way. Make sense?
Yes, that should be fine. So yeah, so I'll submit the patch set and then we could go over the patch set and discuss it in the brigade and then only merge it.
Yes. Let me actually do this. Okay. Thanks, Amit. Anything else that you guys want to bring up?
Yeah, so Andrea, I just, as in whatever 1 or 2 minutes, I could look into the open config thing. I will look into it in detail, but at a very high level, it looks like it is more made for the software aspects on a networking device.
There is
not the hardware aspects really.
No, there are hardware related components, especially.
Now, there are some, but it's not really focusing on the hardware aspects of a device.
There's a lot of software, but the platform tree has hardware related things. It's precisely what we need.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So, well, take a look.
Yeah, I'll go through it.
Yeah,
I'll go through it. No problem.
I'll try to take a look at myself as well.
Yeah.
So I know. Okay. Thanks. Anything else you guys wanted to discuss? Okay. Then if not, I'll publish the recording. Thanks for the meeting. It was great. It was useful. And have a nice evening. Have a nice day. A nice evening. And I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. Let's continue on the emails and on the different threads we have. Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.